What if I told you that a man who died almost 500 years ago predicted the rise of one of the most controversial leaders in modern history? What if his cryptic verses, written in the shadows of medieval France, somehow foresaw the political earthquake that would shake America to its core? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about coincidence and destiny. In the dusty chambers of history, buried within the enigmatic quatrains of Michel de Nostradamus, lies a prophecy so chilling, so precise, that it has sent shockwaves through the community of scholars and believers alike. Nostradamus, the French physician turned prophet, penned his visions in 1565, centuries before America even existed as a nation. Yet somehow, impossibly, his words seem to speak directly to our time, to our reality, to the political upheaval that has defined the 21st century. Let me take you back to century 3, quatrain 81 of his prophetic writings. The words appear simple at first glance, almost mundane in their medieval French. But when we peel back the layers, when we decode the symbolism that Nostradamus deliberately wove into his verses, a startling picture emerges. He wrote of a loud and audacious man who would rise to power in a great land across the sea. This man, according to the prophecy, would emerge not from royal bloodlines or military conquest, but from the world of commerce and gold. He would be a builder of towers, a man whose name itself would become synonymous with wealth and power. Now, I know what you're thinking. This could apply to anyone, couldn't it? But wait, because the details get more specific, more unsettling. Nostradamus described this figure as having hair like the rays of the sun, a detail so specific that it seems almost impossible to dismiss as mere coincidence. He spoke of a man who would divide nations with his words, whose tongue would be both his weapon and his shield. The prophet warned that this leader would rise during a time of great fear, when people sought strength and protection from unseen enemies. The parallels to Donald Trump's ascension to the presidency are impossible to ignore. In 2016, against all odds and predictions, a real estate mogul with distinctive golden hair defied the political establishment and claimed the highest office in the United States. His rise was unprecedented, marked by rhetoric that polarized not just America, but the entire world. He was indeed a builder of towers, literal towers bearing his name across multiple continents. He emerged from the world of business and entertainment, not from the traditional corridors of political power. But the prophecy doesn't stop at the rise. Nostradamus went further, describing the tumultuous reign that would follow. In century 6, quatrain 5, he wrote of false accusations and investigations that would plague this leader, of enemies within his own court who would seek to undermine his rule. The prophet foresaw impeachment attempts, describing them as failed conspiracies by those who feared his unorthodox methods. History records not one, but 2 impeachment trials during Trump's first term, both ending in acquittal, exactly as the pattern of failed conspiracies the prophet seemed to describe. The prophecy takes an even darker turn when we examine century 2, quatrain 95. Here Nostradamus speaks of a great plague that would sweep the land during this leader's time, a pestilence that would bring economies to their knees and fill the streets with fear and death. The COVID-19 pandemic arrived in 2020, transforming Trump's presidency and indeed the entire world. The prophet described how this leader would be blamed for the deaths, how his handling of the crisis would become a source of fierce debate and division. Every detail seems to mirror the reality we witnessed. Perhaps most chilling is the prophecy about the leader's return. Century 8, quatrain 66, speaks of a powerful man who would be cast down but would rise again, more formidable than before. Nostradamus described a period of exile, a time in the wilderness where this figure would rally his followers and prepare for a triumphant return. After his defeat in the 2020 election, Trump never conceded, never faded from public view. Instead, he maintained his influence over his party, held massive rallies, and announced his intention to reclaim power. And then came 2024. Against the predictions of countless analysts, against the expectations of his critics, Donald Trump won the presidency again, becoming only the second person in American history to serve non-consecutive terms. The prophecy of the return had manifested in real time. Nostradamus had written that this second rise would be even more divisive than the first, that the nation would be split down the middle, brother against brother, in a cold civil war of ideologies. As I speak these words, America remains deeply polarized, perhaps more than at any point since the actual Civil War. But why? How could a 16th century French mystic possibly have known these things? Nostradamus himself claimed that his visions came through a combination of celestial observation, ancient texts, and what he called divine inspiration. He would enter trance-like states, sitting in his study late at night, gazing into a bowl of water balanced on a bronze tripod. In these moments, he claimed, time itself would fold, allowing him to glimpse events centuries into the future. Skeptics dismiss this as superstition, as the ravings of a man perhaps poisoned by the very chemicals he used in his medical practice. But believers point to the accumulated evidence of his accurate predictions as proof that something beyond our understanding was at work. The prophecy extends even further into the future. Century 10, quatrain 72 warns of great trials that will test this leader in his second reign. Nostradamus wrote of economic turbulence, of conflicts with ancient enemies across vast oceans, and of internal strife that would threaten the very fabric of the Republic. He described a time when truth itself would become a casualty, when people would no longer agree on basic facts, when reality would fracture into competing narratives. Does this not describe our current moment with eerie precision? The prophet also warned of consequences. He suggested that while this loud and audacious leader would achieve some of his goals, the ultimate legacy would be one of transformation rather than triumph. The nation would never be the same, he wrote. The old ways would crumble, and what emerged from the chaos would be something new, something that future generations would struggle to understand. Whether this transformation would ultimately be beneficial or catastrophic, Nostradamus left deliberately vague, as if even he could not see clearly through the smoke of such profound change. Some scholars point to additional quatrains that seem to reference specific events during Trump's presidencies. Century 1, quatrain 57, is interpreted by some to describe the January 6th Capitol riot. Speaking of an angry mob storming the seat of power, of sacred halls violated, and of a leader whose words incited action, Century 9, quatrain 11, is said to predict the controversies surrounding election integrity. The claims and counterclaims that would poison the democratic process. Of course, interpreting Nostradamus is a notoriously subjective exercise. His quatrains were written in a mixture of French, Latin, and Greek, deliberately obscured to protect himself from persecution by the church. He used anagrams, symbolism, and metaphor to veil his meanings. Skeptics argue that his verses are so vague that they can be retrofitted to match almost any historical event if one tries hard enough. They point out that countless predictions attributed to Nostradamus have failed to materialize, that the successful hits are simply confirmation bias at work, yet the believers counter with the specificity of certain details. How many wealthy builders with distinctive golden hair have become President of the United States during a time of plague and returned to power after defeat? The probability of such specific circumstances aligning by pure chance seems astronomically small. They argue that while some quatrains may be open to interpretation, the cumulative weight of the evidence is too substantial to dismiss entirely. What makes the Trump prophecies particularly compelling is their contemporary nature. Unlike predictions about the distant past that cannot be verified, or prophecies about the far future that have yet to unfold, these events have occurred in real time. documented by millions of witnesses and countless hours of video footage. We have lived through these moments. We have watched the prophecy unfold before our eyes, whether we recognized it as such or not. The question that haunts scholars and believers alike is this: if Nostradamus truly did see our time, if his visions of Trump and America are genuine glimpses of a predetermined future, what does that mean for free will? Are we simply actors in a cosmic play already written, or do we have the power to change the script? The prophet himself seemed to believe that his warnings were meant to help humanity prepare for and potentially alter the worst outcomes. He saw his role not as a passive observer, but as a messenger, someone who could give humankind the knowledge needed to make better choices. As we stand at this crossroads in history, with the prophecy still unfolding around us, we must ask ourselves what comes next. If Nostradamus was right about Trump's rise, his trials and his return, what else did he see? What other warnings did he leave for us to discover? The remaining quatrains speak of great challenges ahead, of conflicts and crises that will test not just America, but all of humanity. Some describe environmental catastrophes, others speak of wars fought with weapons we can barely imagine. The prophet warns of a time when the very foundations of civilization will be shaken. But Nostradamus also left verses of hope. Among the warnings are glimpses of renewal, of humanity rising to meet its challenges, of a future where the struggles of our time are remembered as necessary birth pangs of a better world. He suggested that great leaders, for all their flaws, sometimes play necessary roles in breaking down old systems that have become corrupt or obsolete. Perhaps the chaos is not the end, but the painful middle of a longer story of transformation. The truth is, we may never know with certainty whether Nostradamus genuinely saw our future, or whether we are simply finding patterns in the randomness of history. What we can say with confidence is that his prophecies continue to captivate, to provoke thought, and to offer a lens through which we can examine our own times. Whether divine vision or human imagination, his words force us to confront questions about destiny, leadership, and the arc of history itself. As you reflect on what you've heard today, consider the implications. If prophecy is real, if the future can be seen and perhaps altered, what responsibility do we bear as witnesses to these times? The story of Nostradamus and Trump is far from over. The prophecy continues to unfold with each passing day, each new crisis, each unexpected turn in the political landscape. We are living inside the prediction, participating in events that a French mystic supposedly saw half a millennium ago. If this journey through prophecy and history has opened your eyes to new possibilities, if you want to continue exploring the mysteries that connect our past, present, and future, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Leave a comment below telling me what you think. Did Nostradamus really see our time, or are we reading too much into cryptic medieval poetry? The debate continues, and your voice matters. Together, we'll keep uncovering the prophecies that shape our world, the ancient warnings that echo through time, and the mysteries that remind us how much we still don't understand about the nature of reality itself. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your mind questioning, because the truth is always stranger than we imagine.